Viewer and welcome. This is Worldview. I'm Emedion James with the day's top stories. In Nigeria, U.S. President Donald Trump has warned that there could be American troops on ground or a possible airstrikes if the Nigerian government fails to curb attacks on Christians. In Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has been sworn in for a new term, following a tense and violent election that left dozens dead. And in the East Asia region, American official Pete Hegseth has visited the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea ahead of key talks over the future of U.S. troops deployment in the region. The visit underscores Washington's renewed focus on security dynamics in the Korean Peninsula. Stay tuned with us for analysis and reaction to the developing stories right here on Worldview. Many thanks for staying tuned. We begin today on Worldview from Washington, D.C., where U.S. President Donald Trump has said that for now, he is not considering a deal that could allow Ukraine to obtain long-range Tomahawk missiles for use against Russia. Trump has been called to a plan for the United States to sell Tomahawks to NATO nations that could transfer them to Ukraine, saying he does not want to escalate the war. His latest comment to reporters aboard Air Force One indicate that he remains reluctant. Trump and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte discussed the Tomahawk idea when they met at the White House on October 22nd. Rutte said on Friday that the issue was under review and that it was up to the United States to decide. In a related development, Donald Trump has also played down the possibility of a U.S. war with Venezuela, but suggested Nicolas Maduro's days as the country's president are numbered. Asked if the U.S. was going to war against Venezuela, the U.S. president told newsmen that he doubts it and does not really think so. His comments come as the U.S. continues to launch strikes on a large drug smuggling boat in the Caribbean. The Trump administration says the strikes are necessary to stem the flow of drugs into the U.S. Trump further rejected suggestions that the U.S. action was not about stopping narcotics, but aimed at ousting Maduro, a longtime Trump's opponent, saying it was about many things. Meanwhile, at least 64 people have been killed by U.S. strikes in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific since early September. We move now to Nigeria, where U.S. President Donald Trump has said that the U.S. military could deploy troops to Nigeria or carry out airstrikes to stop what he called the killings of large numbers of Christians in the West African country. Asked if he envisioned troops on ground or airstrikes in Nigeria, Trump had this to say. Let's take a listen.
A lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen. I mean, a lot of things I envisage, a lot of things. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen. I mean, a lot of things.
Trump made the comments on Sunday evening as he headed back to Washington after a weekend at his vacation home in Florida. Meanwhile, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu responded to the post by Donald Trump, saying that the characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect national reality, nor does it take into consideration the consistent and sincere efforts of the government to safeguard freedom of religion. Joining us to give more clarity to the issue is an international public relation and policy analyst in the person of Idiong Fon Okon. Hello, sir. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here.
Yeah, so let's just hit the ground running. Let's begin with President Trump's recent threat. We'll take a closer look at his statement. According to a post on Truth Social, the president said, "If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killings of Christians, the U.S. may very well go into that now disgraced country. Guns a blessing to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities." He further stated that he is hereby instructing the Department of War to prepare for a possible action. According to him, if they attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians, warning the Nigerian government better move fast. First off, I'd like us to begin with the issue of loans and foreign aid that he talked about earlier. Can you highlight some of the major aid programs or financial assistance that Nigeria currently receives from the United States? And do you also think these ongoing benefits could be part of the reasons the U.S. are interested or interfering in Nigerians' affairs?
Thank you very much. Now, the United States
Hello, sir, can you hear us? I think we'll take a quick break right now. When we return, our guest is on standby.
of knowledge, fun, and
Many thanks for staying tuned. Apologies for the breaking transmission. We're having conversation between the U.S. and the Nigeria Christian genocide claims. And of course, we had a guest, an international public relations and policy analyst on the standby. Hello, sir. Good afternoon once again, and welcome to the show. Okay, while we are still waiting for a guest to join us, we actually looked at the issue of loans and foreign aid, according to Donald Trump, that has been given to Nigeria to help fight the terrorism war. Now, according to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he said that the loan and aid have actually been utilized properly, and also the war is beyond a religious war. In other words, both the Muslims and Christians are also affected in the terrorism fight. Like I said earlier, that we had a guest on the standby. Hello, sir. Good afternoon, and welcome to the show. Yes, I think I can hear you now. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are actually still looking at these. We are having a conversation pertaining to the Donald Trump and Nigeria Christian genocide claims. And earlier Donald Trump said that loans and foreign aid have been given to Nigerians to use to fight the war. So do you mind highlighting some of the major programs or financial assistance that Nigeria currently receives from the United States? And do you think that these benefits are also part of the reasons behind the U.S. interest in Nigeria's affairs?
Okay, thank you very much. To begin with, the first part of the question, in 2003, we are arguing from the standpoint of foreign policy. I will say that foreign policy is what the government make of it in the outside world pertaining to their national interest, and whatever their national interest is will be a tool that they will use to get it. Now, in 2023, the U.S. committed about 1.2 billion in foreign aid to Nigeria, and an additional 902 million reported from the New York Times. Okay, and then we had under the global health supply chain, or which we know as the HIV funding from the U.S. State Department. This was about 10 million, okay, 10 billion annually, and Nigeria is one of the beneficiaries of this. Now, speaking about strategically, AFRICOM, the African Command USA, provides training to militaries of third world, developing countries rather, and where the United States have its military bases. And in fact, there was a time that Nigeria wanted the headquarters of AFRICOM to be in Nigeria, which wasn't granted by the United States of America. Educationally, we have the Mandela, the Yali Lens, we have that's the Young African Leadership Initiative by the Obama administration, which is currently under the control of the United States under the State Department. And then we have initiatives like the Mandela Fellowship, Washington fellowship. I mean, Nigeria is actually gaining a lot from its diplomacy with the United States of America.
So is that a reason for the US interference in our affairs?
Now, we cannot call this an interference. Or if we are to call this an interference, if we are to define what interference is from the United Nations Charter, this will not get under the definition of scope of what interference in internal politics of a country is. So what the US is saying, this comes under the remember we talked about foreign policy. This comes under the International Religious Persecution Act of the United States, 1999, and then the persistent victimization of Christians in the country. People may ask, are these only Christians that are being that are suffering the aftermath of Boko Haram? Now, when Boko Haram was designated in 2013 as a foreign terror organization, remember Boko Haram was already here before, that was 2009, 2010 when Boko Haram came on board. And then in 2013, the United States designated them as a terror organization. What's the idea of Boko Haram? Their idea is to remember they are against Western ideas to Islamize the country from what they say.
True.
From what they say. So it will prompt the president of the United States to remember he never mentioned Fulani herdsmen. He never mentioned bandits. He called radical Islamic terrorists.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you still there with us?
So on a broader note, on a broader note, we can see that this has a lot to do with Trump's foreign policy. Under trade, security, and evangelization of democracy. In 2000, and during the Goodluck Jonathan's regime, when the Nigeria wanted getting the Tucano aircraft towards its fight against Boko Haram, it was denied, and then thereafter in 2017, it was granted under the Buhari regime. From this analogy, from this antithesis, it is not a thing of whether the United States does not like, in quotes, the current president of Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, so still on this conversation, when Donald Trump describes Nigeria as a country of particular concern regarding religious freedom, some people argue that this isn't just about Christians, that all life matters. What's your take on that perspective?
Now, what's the take on the perspective? You have to look at which country is saying this and which president is saying it. Now, United States is West. United States is West, emanating from the having the Judeo-Christian heritage. And then it is more concerned about, nothing is more concerned is democracy. Mary said that the United States as a Western country evangelizes democracy. Okay. And when it does this, it does. Now, if people are saying that, why is the United States more concerned about Christians in the country? Okay, we have here in Nigeria we have Christians, and we have Christianity and Islam as the majority. The major religion. Yes. Why is it that countries like Qatar, countries like Saudi Arabia are now also speaking up? Why is Boko Haram? Why do you have fundamentalists amongst us killing people? Destroying their mode of worship. Now, this has a lot to do with democracy. Remember, we said one of the ideas of Boko Haram is forceful conversion, which is against the International Religious Persecution Act of 1999 of the United States of America.
Okay, but you see that we are we are one. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, I mean, the same color of blood runs in our vein. So is it safe to say that this is a religious war? And also, if anything bad happens to the Muslim, we should just turn a blind eye. After all, we do not share the same faith.
That's not the case here. The case here has to do with religious freedom. Now, the United States does not have a problem with the Nigerian government. Neither does the Nigerian government have a problem with the US government. Their problem here, remember, after 9/11, there was a global war. It's what we called the GWOT, the Global War on Terror, of which Nigeria is part. When the US launched the Global War on Terror, many other countries bandwagon. Us, we were already romancing with terror, Boko Haram terror. We had no choice but to bandwagon alongside other countries want to get rid of terrorism within their boundaries. Now, we also have to know that in the words of President Barack Obama, when he said that when he was in Japan, that we cannot afford to have places on the map that are existentially ungovernable.
Okay.
This has a lot to do with their foreign policy of free towards the right of freedom of worship. So it's not a thing of whether you're a Christian or a Muslim. What the US see is that everyone must have their own liberty to worship or to belong to any religious group they wish to.
Okay, so still on this same conversation, let's look at some of the conspiracy theories making the rounds. Some suggest that the United government may be indirectly signaling that it does not want President Tinubu to remain in power. There is also a conspiracy theory going, surrounding the speculations about the alleged coup attempt, especially now that reports indicate about 42 military officers being arrested. And finally, there are claims that President Trump's renewed interest in Nigeria might be linked to the country's mineral resources, with some seeing this as part of a broader contest plan to gain control over Nigeria's national wealth. What's your take on that? Do you see this as a conspiracy theory, or like you've said earlier, it is just the US being concerned in the lives of Christians in Nigeria?
Now, usually in the social sciences, or in international relations, Israel, we do not have much to do with conspiracy theories. Whether you look at it from meta theories or you bring from other faculties. Yes, let me respond. Let me start with the question regarding the coup. Okay, our reports having that there are some 42 military personnel that have been detained in connection with the coup, and then there was a transfer of some money. Some money from the coffers of the ND, this is Niger Delta Development Commission. Be it as it may, the federal government have not actually responded to whether it's a coup or it wasn't a coup. When the president made changes to the cabinet regarding military appointees, they never stated. They took that as per usual change in portfolio, and then neither has the armed forces responded to any question regarding that if there was a coup or not. But then they have acknowledged the investigation regarding the transfer of the 45 billion from the Niger Delta coffers. And then the other question you asked, if it's a thing, if the current regime of the USA likes the sitting president of Nigeria, President Trump is actually someone who is quite benevolent in his speeches. Okay, it is not a thing of like or unlike, it's a thing of foreign policy priorities. Okay, the American First doctrine and ending endless war and peace around the world. Now, in 2000, during I made mention it during Goodluck Jonathan's era, we were still in the midst of fighting Boko Haram. Remember when Nigeria applied to have a right to purchase the Tucano airplanes? Remember that, right?
Yeah.
It was refused. Okay. It was quite later on during the Buhari regime. That was in 2017 that the United States agreed to sell this to the country. Now, note that in 2029, this is not the first time Nigeria has been designated as part of the CPC.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, and most times it's always on the issue of of Christian persecution. So perhaps this call is a time for the government to sit up. It's time for the government to take the lives of its citizens as part of part of a national security to protect its citizens.
True.
It's not a religious war. I'm not saying so. I need to respond to the other question. If the US is coming for
Natural
Nigeria's
resources.
minerals,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yes.
If well, all countries act based on interest.
Yeah.
Now let's ask, when Nigeria intervened in the internal politics of Gambia during the Adama Barrow elections in 2017,
Yeah.
what did Nigeria stand to do? Okay, Nigeria actually did that as a big brother of Africa, and America is responding to issues of religious persecution in Nigeria as the global police, in quotes. Of course, since independence, Nigeria has been a trading partner with the US, and in fact, the conspiracy theorists also say that it's because of the trade war between Nigeria and the US.
Yeah.
Actually, there is no trade between Nigeria and the US. Nigeria has a about 12.5 percentage of tariff on US goods, and in turn, the US has about 15% tariff on Nigerian exports. Okay, this is quite not traditional for any country. It's commonsensical economics to protect infant industries.
Yeah.
Okay, so whether to answer the question, if America is coming for our resources, we've always had our resources since 1960, and the United States have always been our trading partner.
Yeah.
So, and our relations with our international relations with the United States, though it's a relation between the global south, the global north, and the global south, we wouldn't say it's always a win-win. For them, Nigeria stands a lot to benefit in this relationship. Thank you.
Nigeria stands a lot to benefit from this relationship. Anyways, I don't think some Nigerians feel the same way. But before I let you go, how do you think the Nigerian government should respond to or handle these unfolding issues, particularly in the light of President Trump's statement and the growing tensions between the both countries?
How do
you think the Nigerian government should respond or react to the ongoing,
Okay.
I don't want to call it war, but the ongoing drama between the US and the Christians in Nigeria?
You see, Nigeria, one, can take a diplomatic engagement. We have our embassies in US. They could get into high-level talks between presidents. There's been talk of President Tinubu meeting. I don't know. I will not verify that. That has not been settled yet. Talk between that President Tinubu will meet the sitting president of the United States. We could engage in high-level talks to emphasize our ongoing efforts against insecurity, especially Boko Haram and the killer headsmen and all of that. And secondly, it could serve as a time to address root causes. Now, in 1910, when the US made same speculations as they have made to Nigeria, what they wanted was a regime change in Nicaragua, and they just made speculation, which actually had a positive effect on Nicaragua. The USS have made this during the Cold War towards Estonia and two other Eastern class countries. It's a time for us to address the root causes of and take domestic security measures. I mean, this comes at a time when the Minister El-Rufai from from the current from the last previous administration said that he was going to release a list of sponsors of Boko Haram.
Yeah.
This was what he stated on Capital FM. I mean, today we haven't seen that list. Okay,
True.
It's high time we address root causes and ensure a transparent investigation into all of this, the cause, and promote interfaith dialogue.
Yeah.
Interfaith dialogue. Another thing we can highlight. Mutual interests like in trade and counter terrorism. You know, we are a partner with AFRICOM, and it's actually a time we can share intelligence with the United States to help us overcome the menace of Boko Haram.
Thank you so much for your detailed contribution and analysis to this matter. But before again I let you go, some say that the United States they have no moral or political right to detect Nigeria or to influence how the Nigerian government run its affairs, considering the fact that Nigeria is a sovereign nation and also Africa's most populous country. What's your perspective on that?
It is true that it is true that Nigeria is a sovereign nation. And it's also true that the United States does not have a moral right to dictate its internal politics. But be it as it may, which could contravene the United Nations Article 2. And then, even under the United Nations Article 2, I'm not saying, what I'm about saying, I'm not implying that the United States has already begun intervening, having an interventionist plan in our work in Nigeria. I'm just saying that even under the Article 2, we have the Chapter 7, or it's still under the United Nations Charter, which speaks about where there are cases of that could lead to regional peace, to lead the United Nations, what they call the responsibility to protect. Okay. The United States, I might mention that the U.S. president is quite benevolent in his speeches. Now, perhaps if he actually means, let's say, taking on a covert, if his intention is to make a covert intervention in Nigeria, the secret to a successful attack is the element of surprise. He wouldn't have actually gone on truth to post this,
True.
Okay, and it's actually a call. It's actually a call. Remember, I said that this is part of hard power. Okay, they are exercising their hard power to make sure that things fall in place. It is generally and broadly part of United Nations evangelization of democracy and putting other countries in check.
Okay, so let's still in the spirit of evangelism, let's turn the spotlight now to Tanzania, where of recent there has been reports that over 100, or some reports say 700 people have been killed in the recent election conducted in Tanzania. And we can also see that Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu has been sworn in for a second term in spite of everything that has happened. I'm just wondering, why is the U.S. evangelism mission not also reacting to the killings? Or can we also say that it's because there are no Christians in Tanzania?
Tanzania, you see, despite the fact that foreign policy might be consistent for a while, but for some time, it might not necessarily be a priority to a country at that time. Okay. Now, let's also understand that Tanzania is a socialist republic in Africa, starting from we had the Tanganyika and all of that, and now the current president, after she took over from the former president, this is actually what we can classify. Note that Tanzania takes on an outlook. Their CCM party. The CCM party takes model from the Chinese China Communist Party.
Okay.
And if 400 people have, if the elections have post-election violence have killed 400 people, and we are expecting the US to
React.
have to say something regarding that. And they have not yet said so. We cannot say that they have not yet said so. You remember when the opposition leader Mohammed Kilba was assassinated?
Yeah.
Okay, the US gave a statement condemning the issue. But then at the moment, perhaps and not yet, Tanzania or Tanganyika is not a necessary priority of the United States of America at the moment.
I really had to take a deep breath on that. I'm just wondering why Tanzania is not a major priority of the US. But because of time, we've come to the end of this particular segment. And I'd like to say a big thank you to you, John Fon, for being a part of this show. Thank you for all the analysis and contributions that you have given on this particular segment.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, so still in Africa, Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan vowed today to move on from deadly protests set off by last week's disputed election as she was sworn into office for her first elected term. Opponents say the vote was rigged and that hundreds died, but the government has dismissed that toll are exaggerated. Hassan, who came into power in 2021 following the death of a predecessor, declared the winner of last Wednesday's election with nearly her two leading challengers have been disqualified from the race. The 65-year-old, one of the only two female heads of state in Africa, took the oath of office at the ceremony on a military base in the capital, Dodoma. Hassan condemned the protests as violent and destructive. Meanwhile, observers say voters could not express democratic will. Let's move now to the Middle East, where a powerful 6.3 magnitude earthquake struck near the northern Afghan city of Mazar el-Sharif early today, killing at least 20 people, injuring hundreds, and damaging the city's historic blue mosques. Authorities said the death toll likely to rise. The U.S. Geological Survey said the quake hit at a depth of 0.4 miles. Sharif, a city of around 523,000 famous for its shrines and historic site. Mohammed Rahim, a survivor in the Taj Kohan district close to the quake epicenter, said the earth shook violently for around 15 seconds. Still in the Middle East, Hamas handed over bodies of 3 hostages on Sunday, even as the Palestinian militant group traded blame with Israel for violation of the tenacious truce that has mostly halted 2 years of war. Israeli forces in Gaza received coffins carrying the bodies of 3 hostages conveyed through the Red Cross. Office said the remains will be transported to Israel for In the meantime, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned on Sunday that Hezbollah was secondary armed and that Israel would exercise its right to self-defense under last year's ceasefire accord if Lebanon failed to disarm the militant group. At the start of a cabinet meeting, Netanyahu said Israel will act as necessary In a separate development, South Korea's defense ministry said U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visited the demilitarized zone along the border with North Korea as part of a trip to South Korea today. His visit to the heavily fortified DMZ came ahead of talks expected to involve Washington's goal of reshaping the role of U.S. troops in Korea. Hegseth landed in the border area in a U.S. Army helicopter and met South Korean Defense Minister Ang Kyung-park. The defense chiefs are scheduled to hold the annual security consultative meeting on Tuesday, the highest level forum at which the two countries chart the course of the military alliance and South Korea's defense against nuclear-armed North Korea. Reports say An and Hegseth will discuss combined defense readiness against North Korea and cooperation on regional security and cyber and missile defense. The South Defense Ministry said the two are expected to discuss plans to respond to the changing security environment and threat by developing the alliance between the two countries. Lastly, on Worldview today, 2 British men have been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder in connection with a stopping rapid on a London-bound train that sent 11 people to hospital with serious injuries. Officials said they did not believe the attack was terrorism-related, but offered no potential motive for the spray on Saturday evening, which forced a commuter train from northern England to make an emergency stop. Of the 11 wounded, 4 have been discharged from the hospital, but 2 remained in life-threatening condition. The police said the suspect, a 32-year-old and a 35-year-old, are British nationals who were born in the United Kingdom. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said in a statement on social media that the attack was deeply concerning, adding that his thoughts are with all those affected. He further appreciated the emergency services for their response. Meanwhile, witnesses on the train described frantic moments of horror unfolding as the train sped towards London's King's Cross station. And that's all we have for you today on Worldview. We have been following Donald Trump's warning of possible U.S. military action in Nigeria, the swearing in of Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan after a turbulent election, and also U.S. defense official Pete Hegseth's visit to the Korean demilitarized zone ahead of security talks. You can find more on all these stories on other world development on our website at spectrumtvlive.ng. I am Emedion James, and from us here at Spectrum TV, we say thank you for listening and have a blessed day.